Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Thursday everybody. According to a statement published yesterday, Wednesday, by the People's Bank of China, China's central bank says it will stabilize jobs and inflation, and it reaffirmed also that monetary policy will, quote, provide stronger support to the real economy. End quote. The statement was published after a meeting of the bank's Monetary Policy Committee, chaired by the bank's governor, who also signalled in an interview this week that monetary stimulus would likely focus on expanding credit rather than lowering interest rates. Employment, however, looks to be the issue keeping officials up at night. Bloomberg reports that a gauge measuring expectations for future employment plunged to 44.5 in the second quarter of this year, the lowest level since the global financial crisis back in 2009. Another gauge measuring how residents perceive the current employment situation also sank to the lowest since 2009. The official job rate was 5.9% in May, above the full-year target of under 5.5%, while the youth unemployment rate surged to a record 18.4%, and the real unemployment rates are likely higher. As we discussed earlier this week, the government has announced some loosening in COVID control policies. However, zero COVID remains in force, and as such will continue to create the uncertainty that pulls down business and consumer confidence, even with generous stimulus. And that stimulus isn't free either. According to a tally by the 21st Century Business Herald, in June, China issued 1.9 trillion RMB in local government debt, mostly in the form of special purpose bonds, a new high in monthly debt creation. Next up for the economy, the housing sector. Speaking at an event on Tuesday, Yu Liang, chairman of China Wanke Co. Limited, China's second largest developer by sales, expressed that after almost 12 months of devastating collapse in the housing sector through housing sales, China's real estate market may have finally bottomed out. Mr. Yu expressed that pre-owned home sales are rebounding as a result of cities relaxing their property policies. Quote, some demand delayed by the recent COVID-19 outbreaks has been unleashed this month. End quote. He also informed the audience that in the first 5 months of 2022, his firm Wanke's housing sales by floor space plunged 45.5% year-on-year. Financial analysts observe that he may be right. However, the sales market has crashed so much that it had to bottom out sooner or later. Quote, analysts predict final data will show housing sales increase month on month in June after several months in which strict COVID lockdowns exacerbated the effect of an industry-wide liquidity crisis that started last year. End quote. These analysts also point out that the most recent data from property consultancy China Real Estate Information Corp shows that total housing sales by floor space in 80 major cities across the country rose 18% in the first 20 days of June from the same period last year. But we need to keep in mind that this is from a very low base. Indeed, the data shows that year-on-year sales will likely still be down a whopping 40% in June, though this is slightly better than the 50% collapse that we saw in May year-on-year. So the most optimistic reading is that we may be seeing a bottoming out, some stabilization, but nothing like a sharp rebound. Government stimulus and policy easing may be finally arresting the collapse in sales, though it's difficult to know how sustainable or healthy this path forward is. Indeed, as we explored earlier this week, some policy moves, like deferred principal repayment plans for borrowers in Wenzhou, have attracted concern for increasing credit risk. Analysts at Macquarie Group Limited, in a research note this week, expressed, quote, property policy has taken a decisive turn since mid-May, when the central government finally started lowering the mortgage rate. End quote. Now, this is a lot of heavy stuff for the economy, so let's end this part on the economy with a little piece of good news. Restaurants in Shanghai have reopened their doors to diners this week after being closed for more than 3 months during the city's strict lockdown. I hope anyone who's listening from Shanghai can enjoy a good meal at a nice restaurant this week. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content, if you like what I'm trying to do here with China Update and you'd like to help keep it financially sustainable and subscriber supported, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee if you want to give a one-off tip, links are in the description below. As always, thank you so much everybody, as always, for the ongoing support. Next up, G7. The G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom and the United States, has published a joint communique signed by all parties. China was mentioned 14 times in the communique versus only 4 times in the G7 statement from a year ago. Now, the full document is quite long, but it's worth touching on the main areas where China was mentioned. Quote, "We urge all relevant creditors, including non-Paris Club countries such as China with large outstanding claims on low-income countries facing debt sustainability challenges, to contribute constructively to the necessary debt treatments as required. We remain seriously concerned about the situation in the East and South China Seas. We strongly oppose any unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion that increase tensions. We underscore the importance of peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and encourage a peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues. We call on China to honor its commitments made in the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the Basic Law, which enshrine rights, freedoms, and a high degree of autonomy for Hong Kong. We will build a shared understanding of China's non-transparent and market-distorting interventions in other forms of economic and industrial directives. We are gravely concerned about the human rights situation in China. We will continue to promote universal values, including by calling on China to respect universal human rights and fundamental freedoms, including in Tibet and in Xinjiang, where forced labor is of major concern to us." End quote. US outlet Wall Street Journal writes that, according to a German official, Germany, the host of the G7 this year, initially pushed back against the hardening tone on China, but agreed to the final wording because the communique didn't equate China with Russia. Now, Beijing is not very happy with this communique, unsurprisingly, but will likely be even less happy about the current NATO summit, which has invited the leaders of Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand to join. Here is an editorial from the state-run Global Times. This is what they expressed in the editorial yesterday. Quote, "NATO is by no means an antidote to Europe's security crisis, but poison. If anyone spreads such poison to East Asia, which is called the oasis of world peace and development, the behavior is insidious and appalling. Whatever the reason, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, especially Japan and South Korea, should not be present at the NATO summit. The sewage of the Cold War cannot be allowed to flow into the Pacific Ocean." In another piece, turning to attack the US directly, the same outlet wrote today, quote, "US policymakers may be thinking of creating a bigger crisis in the international community than the Russia-Ukraine conflict to ease its inflation, gun violence, racial issues, and low approval ratings at home." End quote. We will have more on the NATO meeting, which has now officially identified China as a systemic challenge, as well as Beijing's response, tomorrow. Last up, Japanese financial media outlet Nikkei Asia is reporting that earlier this month, the Chinese Ministry of State Security, China's civilian intelligence, security and secret police agency, asked Pakistan to allow a Chinese security company to operate inside the country. According to 2 Pakistani officials speaking to Nikkei Asia on condition of anonymity, Pakistan's Interior Ministry refused and, quote, "offered assurances that Pakistan's security forces are able to protect Chinese nationals and assets in Pakistan." End quote. As we've discussed in previous videos, Chinese assets and civilians have increasingly been the targets of terrorist attacks in Pakistan. This year saw an attack on Chinese instructors at a Confucius Institute in Karachi. Last year, 10 Chinese people were killed in an attack on a bus in Dasu in the north. The complex security situation could be putting strain on the bilateral relationship, which officially is known as an all-weather friendship. Pakistan is an important long-term ally for Beijing. The country helps China counterbalance India and South Asia and is a key player in Chinese South Asian and Eurasian policies, like General Secretary Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative. However, Chinese deaths create domestic political issues at home, with a population demanding that citizens be protected overseas. Washington-based veteran China analyst Bill Bishop observed on the development today, quote, If accurate, this Nikkei report that MSS asked Pakistan for permission to send in an unnamed PRC security firm to protect PRC interests in the country is quite interesting. I wonder how long Pakistan can keep saying no, especially if there are more attacks on PRC development interests in the country." End quote. Okay, that is today's episode. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.